Okay, so I'm actually going to start this video lesson for 1F on translating words by having you pause the video. And when you pause the video, I want you to think about what are some words that you associate with each of these four symbols, and just write some of those words in the box that goes with that symbol. Write some of the words that you can think of that you associate with each of those terms, and then unpause the video to follow along and watch the words that I come up with, and make sure you get all of them that I get after you've tried some on your own. So hopefully you've at least written down a couple of words. When we see this symbol right here, the first grade word, the young age, we learned that this was a plus sign. So maybe you wrote plus. You could have written add. We know that that means add or addition. Sum, S-U-M, is another word that we associate with that symbol. So if you ever see the word sum, you know that typically we're going to add. Another word that I thought of was total. When we find how much total things we have, normally we add them together. We could do increased by. We don't hear that one as often, but it is one that means add. So we've got plus, add, sum, total, increased by. I've got two special ones that I'm just going to put a little star next to. I've got more than, and I've got added to. And I'll talk in a little bit about why those are starred when we get towards the bottom. But for now, just put them in there and put a nice little star next to them. And we'll talk about it in just a second. For this symbol, you probably maybe thought of the first grade, the younger word. We said this was minus. That's one word that we could use. We could also use subtract. That's a little bit more mature word, or subtraction. Difference is another mature word. When we hear the word difference, the difference between the two, we know that's actually going to ask us to subtract. We could say take away. That's not quite as mature, but it's one that we definitely talk about. When you have something and you take away a group, you're subtracting something. The opposite of increased by, can you think of what that one might be? The opposite of increased by, decreased by. Maybe you were able to come up with that on your own. And then I've got two that we're going to star. The opposite of more than is less than. And the opposite of added to is subtracted from. So you can notice by the words that the words that we put in each box are opposites. So adding and subtracting they're opposites. They're what we call inverse operations. They undo each other. If you add 3 and then you take away 3, you're back to the same number. And now I just want to take a quick second to talk about these starred words. The words that we just starred, I want you to write this with a little star out here. We do kind of backwards. So what I mean by that is if you have 5 less than 12, 12 is actually your starting number. You're starting with 12 and you're taking 5 away from that. 5 less than 12, again, we're starting with 12 and we're taking away 5. So even though it's written with 5 less than 12 at the end, when we write it as a number sentence, we would put 12 minus 5. And I think this will again make more sense when we get to some examples down here. But I just want to make sure that you've got this in your notes. You've got those 4 words, or those 4 phrases starred, and you've got another little star here telling you that those are the ones that you need to do backwards. Let's try and fill this out and kind of finish up. This little dot, sometimes you also see it as an X. So either way, you should hopefully have come up, maybe you came up with times, multiply, product is another great word that we use. So let's see here. or multiplied by, either that would work too. The word of, we don't always recognize this, but this is something that you should commit to memory and commit to your long-term memory because it's going to help you in my math class as well as others along the way. Of means multiply. Whenever you hear or see the word of, you should automatically associate that with multiplication. And then I've got a couple specialty words. I've got double, which when we see double, that just means times by 2. And I've got triple, which when we see that means times by 3. So just a couple kind of special ones down there. Double and triple are specific multipliers, multiply by 2 and multiply by 3. And then this last one, we've got a little division sign, so hopefully you recognize that as divide or divided by. Any of those would work. We've also got quotient. Quotient is the result of dividing two numbers, so that should help you know that you need to divide. And then I've got a couple special ones. The opposite of double. What, can you think of a word that would mean divide by 2? Maybe you came up with it. It's half. If we take 1/2, we divide by 2. Or if we take 1/3 of something, we divide by 3. So those are just kind of some special division words. They have specific numbers associated with them, but they do still mean to divide. And so those are the starting vocab that we're going to talk about when we talk about translating words. You also, on the next page in your notebook, have a sheet that looks like this as kind of a reference sheet. They've got some more of those adding words. They've got added to, plus, some, more than. They've got your subtraction, subtracted from, minus, difference, less than, take away. And they've got all of that for each of those. So this is another good just like reference sheet. We're not going to write on this sheet today, but it's a good reference sheet as you go through to make sure to check back on if you have questions or want to see something. They've got number examples and they've got algebraic examples, which means they have variables in them, and they've got the words written down. So this is just a nice little reference sheet to look back on, and it should be on the next page in your notebook if you glued things in like me.